Thinking about Genesis this week, reading from Genesis. Anytime you read that, you have to come away with the question, what was God thinking? You can't read the biblical account of Adam and Eve in the garden and the serpent and the fall and the tree of knowledge of good and evil and all of that stuff. You can't read all of that without wondering, what on earth was God thinking? We know that God is omniscient. That's a $2 word for being all-knowing. We know that, says so right on his business card. But if that's the case, shouldn't God have known that if you take two human beings, let us add two naked human beings. There's my dad would have said naked. He was from Kentucky. You take two naked human beings and you drop them in the middle of the garden, in the middle of paradise, and you tell them, you can do anything you want. Literally, you can do anything you want in the world except eat the fruit of this particular tree. You do that, and then you turn your back on it. What do you think is going to happen? No doubt he thought he was being perfectly clear, but I have to believe all the time he was talking to them, Adam and Eve were just hearing, wah, 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 wah. They didn't care what he was saying. I want to give him the benefit of the doubt, though. Even though he's omniscient, human beings were a new creation. They were the last of his creation. So maybe he just hadn't had enough practice reading facial expressions and body language. Maybe he was talking to them and he didn't realize that if they were kind of looking around, not really paying attention, that maybe he wasn't getting through. Maybe he just didn't know the danger signals. I was thinking about this week and trying to visualize what it was probably like, or what it might have been like. I think every parent has an appreciation for this kind of discussion. Every parent has probably had it, maybe more than once. And it suddenly occurred to me that I'd recently seen something kind of similar. And the more I've thought about it, the more I thought, well, maybe in modern terms, maybe God talking to Adam and Eve about what they could not do might have looked something like this. Roll the video.
He's out to set off the bomb immediately, and we'll all be dead. Now repeat back what I just said. Hewitt? No! That's the bomb that will kill everyone! Try again. Hewitt. 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 No! Does anybody have any tape out there? What's the tape over the dead button? No one has any tape! Not a single person has tape! You have an atomic bomb in your bag. If anybody's gonna have tape, it's you! I can do everything! You're wasting a lot of time! That's right.
That would be a bad sign. So what was God thinking? And I've been wrestling with the idea of temptation all week, which is not the same as wrestling with temptation. I usually just give in to that and eat the cookies. I was wrestling with the whole concept of temptation. Mainly, what is the point to that? Is God testing us? And so that seems kind of weird. It's like God trying to figure out if we really love Him enough to obey His commands. And that could be because we don't know how God thinks, but that seems like a very human kind of thing. Almost makes God seem kind of needy and in constant need of constant assurance that we're listening. And that doesn't sound like the sort of all-powerful being who created the universe, but needs that constant reassurance. Maybe there's something more. Let's go back to basics. Square one, Adam and Eve. Out of all of God's creation here on earth, He put special care into human beings. We're told that He created us in His own image. That doesn't mean that God is a bipedal mammal. But it does mean that we are like God in the sense that we have spirit. We have pneuma. It's what the Greeks call pneuma. It's that breath of life that was breathed into us by God. It's the ability to think for ourselves. It's we loosely call free will. And that's how we most closely resemble God, because God has free will. God is almost like the poster child for free will, because God's will is completely unfettered. It allowed God to imagine and then to call into being anything, everything. And in a very limited sense, God passed that gift on to us because we also can imagine anything. And maybe God did that because He was lonely and He wanted a creature that was sort of like Him, but that would also choose to love Him rather than love Him because it was designed to do that. Or maybe it was just a special gift for us because we are special. We are God's special creation. But whatever the reason is, God gave us imagination and He gave us free will. And the thing about free will is that it's free. It frees you to say yes or no. It frees you to stay within the grounds of propriety or to step outside. And it frees you to choose whether you're only going to color inside the lines or you're going to take a chance and color outside the lines. Something my first grade teacher talked to me about. But we won't go into that. But philosophically, this is important because if we were not capable of making those decisions, if we were not capable of ignoring God, if we were not capable of saying no to God, then obeying Him, saying yes to God, would mean virtually nothing. Because we would then just be robots, programmed to do what we're told. God didn't want that. He wanted intelligent, spirit-filled human beings. And God knew that when He laid down the law, the one law at that time. If you want to think commandments, there was one commandment for Adam and Eve. So He was fully aware that they had the choice. And here's where it gets, I think, really interesting. You remember the movie Wall Street? Michael Douglas, Gordon Gekko, later went on to make a Geico commercial. I knew that one wasn't going to work. Gordon Gekko. He makes that famous statement, greed is good. I'm going to do a little Gordon Gekko this morning. Sin, the act of sin, is disobedience of God's law. It's turning away from God. And turning away from God results in separation from God and all of the heartache and the pain and division that comes with that. And that's a bad thing. Why does God make that possible? Why not just arrange our minds so that we can't disobey? Here's where I'm going to do the Gordon Gekko thing. And say maybe the root of sin is not all bad. Now mark what I said carefully. The root of sin may not be all bad. Don't go home and write in your diary, today Pastor Keith said sin wasn't all bad. That's not it. That's not what I'm saying. Sin's bad. There's no doubt about that. But that piece that comes before, the precursor to sin, it's not totally bad. Because that thing that comes before is that free will. It's that great gift from God. And it's free will that enables us to listen or to not listen. It enables us to obey boundaries or not obey them. And it enables us to imagine that there's something beyond what we're told. At its base, you have imagination. Imagination is a necessary component of free will, because without it we literally couldn't imagine the possibility of making a choice. But because we have imagination, we can choose it to do bad things, certainly. But as human beings and as God's special creation, we can also use it to do marvelous things. Because it's imagination, that unwillingness to accept boundaries. It's that imagination that pushes humanity to explore this entire planet. And then to look up into the sky and to think, we can go there too. It's an unwillingness to accept boundaries that enables us to dream dreams and plan futures that might never take place without us. And it's the Spirit within us that makes us capable of great love, self-sacrifice, in order to make those dreams come true. So definitely the fall was bad. There is no question about that. But in addition to separating us from God, being willing to step outside the boundaries also set our human hearts and minds on a quest that hasn't ended yet. Let's go back one more time to that original question. What was God thinking? And maybe it was something like this. If I give my children the freedom to choose, they will turn their back on me. If I give my children the freedom to choose, I know they will set out on a path of heartbreak and sorrow. And I will long to have them back. But if I give my children the freedom to choose, even as they take those first steps away from me, they'll be stepping toward a future of exploration and discovery and new knowledge and growth that would not happen otherwise. Because they are my children. And I've given them the ability and the capacity to wonder and to create. To explore. Maybe that's what he was thinking. Any human parent who's ever struggled with their children, struggled to keep them on the straight and narrow when it seemed that all they wanted to do was to go astray, which is probably every parent. We know the pain of watching our children turn away from us and stumble, but we also know that they may someday take those gifts that we've given them. Gifts of love, gifts of spirit, gifts of heart. They may take those things at any time and do good with them. And if we can't prevent them from making bad choices, what we can do is make sure that they know there is still grace and forgiveness waiting for them when they set aside their mistakes and turn back to us. It's the price of freedom. So if the question is, why did God prevent the fall from happening? The answer may very well be, that would have robbed us of our freedom. And He loved us too much to do that. So the very best that He could do in giving us our freedom is to make sure that we had a way home again. As we go forward in this season of Lent, let's remember both of those things. Let us remember our sins, where we have fallen. But also remember that we have a way home through Jesus Christ.